did you even think like, should we talk to somebody about this contract? Like, what was going through your guys' head when you got this deal?
You think I remember that?
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna have some problems with history.
Lucky I remember you.
Yeah. I'm the Weirdo. This is the Beardo, and we are being joined by a man who, I hope he doesn't take this the wrong way, but the last person you would see in a crowd at a metal show that you would think, that guy's running shit. He looks like one of us. And you wouldn't know, seeing him walking down the street, that he is the guy that is one of the biggest leaders in this genre of music, of metal. Mr. Brian Slagel is here.
I am one of you. I'm just a fan and, trying to help as much as I can. So,
and Brian showed up. We talked about doing this a few days ago, and the door opens. We're getting ready to start this recording, and he brought in a friend. What is your name, sir?
I'm just a fan too.
So you've been a metal fan your whole life?
I have.
Yeah? Do you remember discovering your first... Obviously, music comes into our life, but then there's something that we hear that just sounds different to us, that really fires us up. Do you remember what it was that changed everything for you?
My guess would be Priest.
Priest?
I had two older sisters, and they weren't into metal. They were into rock, but not into metal. So I really didn't have any way of finding it out. I lived in a very Spanish neighborhood that wasn't into metal, believe it or not. And
long before Puya.
So I heard Priest on, KLOS, KMET in LA. And it wasn't the good stuff. It was Breaking the Law, Living After Midnight. But I could tell it was something I was into.
Yeah.
So you buy the album. You're like, oh, these guys are way heavier. You do your homework. You get, Hellbent, all the earlier stuff, Stained Class. And then you find out what Priest is really about. And yeah, that was it for me.
Kerry's one of my favorite people on the planet. By the way, it's Kerry King, the legendary Kerry King, that's joining us. You guys meet how long ago?
Oh, God.
I'm trying to remember because I remember the first time I saw Slayer was they opened for Bitch at Woodstock or Radio City. I think it was Radio.
No idea.
Yeah, one of the two in Anaheim. No idea who they were. Bitch was headlining a show, and but I mostly in Hollywood for all the metal stuff there. So I didn't go to Orange County a lot, but I knew there was a scene there. So I saw Bitch was playing, and there's all these opening bands. I'm like, I should go out there early and just see what these bands are like. So I went out there early, and they were the second band out or third. I can't remember when it was, but I watched it. I was like, wow, these guys are really good. It was about half covers and half originals, somewhere around there. But it was really good. I was so good, I went back afterwards, and I talked to their manager at the time, this 18-year-old kid, Stephen Craig, and Lombardo. And I told him, like, hey, I do these compilation albums, Metal Massacre. I'd love to have you guys on one, and if you can record a song. And like, sure. But I don't remember if I met him that night. It was probably later at a rehearsal or something before we started to do the first record.
And what did you think of Slayer the first time you saw him? What year was it?
Would have been 82 or 83.
I'd guess 82.
Yeah, I think it was probably 82.
Because we did the song, and then you stepped up to do an album. So there's that.
And that was 83. Time. Yeah, so it must have been 82.
You did a song for his label.
So they did the Metal Massacre song, Aggressive Perfector.
After you saw them the first time.
Yeah. Well, that's why I saw them, and I thought they're great.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, I do these compilation albums. I'd love to have you guys on if you could record something. And they said sure. And then, they recorded the song. And then said, well, let's do if you can come up with some money, we can do a record. I still had no money at the time, so I couldn't finance anything. So it was everybody, all the first, 10 Metal Blade releases were all financed by basically the bands or their parents or their friends or whoever.
And Kerry, is this the first time someone is wanting to record something with you guys? Had anybody approached you?
As far as I know. I mean, I knew of Brian. I knew of Metal Blade Records.
Did you?
Yeah.
Already?
Yeah, because I'm from the first and second Metal Massacre.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I knew when he was coming to a show, and I knew that we wanted to be good to impress him.
So you get them to do a song on a compilation album?
Yep.
Okay. And then from there, where do you go?
Well, they were gigging a lot, so I would go to all the shows that I could, and they were getting better, and they're writing more original songs. So that's, I don't know when it clicked in my head, but at some point between them recording that one song and seeing them play live a few times, like, hey, let's do a record. So,
okay.
And I said, again, if you guys can pay for it, because I had no money.
And the first record was?
Show No Mercy.
Wow. And then from that, You guys stay on. You guys go to Metal Blade. You get a recording contract with them, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And then, do you guys at that moment? Do you go, what do we do with this? Like, did you even think like, should we talk to somebody about this contract? Like, what was going through your guys' head when you got this deal?
You think I remember that?
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna have some problems with history.
Lucky I remember you.
Yeah.
He does make an impact.
So you end up starting this relationship, and of course, you, besides Slayer and Metallica, I mean, it's like you get credit for being a guy who had this vision long before anybody else did, right?
Yeah, I'm old. That's why. No.
Yeah.
Again, I was just a fan. I love the music. I was just a completely obsessed with heavy metal. I couldn't play an instrument at all. So I went, well, if I'm going to help, I have to do something else. So I did a fanzine, worked at a record store, booked shows, helped program KMET, the local radio stations had Metal Hour. And then I got the idea to put out this compilation album. And that's, where Metallica started. It kind of went from there. I never intended to start a label or anything. I was just trying to help. And that's the only way I knew how to help was all these other things.
Kerry, does this go in the direction you think it's going to go? Like, did you see Slayer going as far as it did? Did you think it would become what it became?
Well, when you're a teenager, you think everything's going to be golden and shiny all the way to the top.
Mm-hmm.
And you think you're the best, period, at whatever you're trying to do. So, I'm sure we thought that, but in reality, I was probably like, well, let's see where it goes. And people ask me a million times, when do you feel like you made it? And it's not because we weren't on Metal Blade anymore, but I always say, Raining Blood.
Yeah.
Because at that point, we got a tour bus for the first time. We weren't driving ourselves. We got hotels we didn't have to share. It's just, you finally got to that little hill where you can see that there might be a future.
When you guys are in vans, that is such a part of being in a band, and you're traveling around. This might sound like a weird question, but I think you actually have an answer. When you smell a fart, do you know who it is? Like, can you tell from the smell? God damn it. That's
at some point, probably.
Yeah.
When we were around each other so much. But that was a long time ago. There was a lot of fun smells in that van that weren't just people.
Yeah.
Do you think that when you start getting big enough to where you can start traveling separately, that leads to communications issue within a band? Or do you think that it's just better to just like, let's just give ourselves space and come back when we need to be together?
I don't think it's a travel thing. I think it's people moving. Like when you start rehearsing, we lived within a few blocks of each other, except for Jim.
Really?
Yeah.
And then blocks.
When people start moving away from the nucleus, that's when not communication issues, just getting together all the time, and then it became an age of better electronics. So music can be sent to people rather than just played for them in person, All
right. So a question for you. You get a label and now you have input from somebody else. You're going to start recording, but other people have to have an influence. Was that difficult to get outside influence? Did you ever have a tough time with somebody
Jeff and
having?
I were very hard-headed.
Yeah.
Open to, ideas, but just as easy to smash it and say, no, that sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, when we were doing those records, because I was producing when Bill Matora was engineering, I mean, we were young kids too. So, and by no means did I have any idea what a producer was, but I just knew somebody had to do it, and I was the only one around to do it. But when we were in the studio with the bands, really, we just let them do their thing. Like if we made a suggestion, it'd be like maybe try that part again, just typical nonsense. But as far as like writing material and influence, I mean, we try to stay as far out of it because, again, I don't play an instrument. I don't know how to write a song. I don't know, how chords go together, any of that stuff. So I'd be the last person to say, oh, try this other chord progression. It's just like, nah, you could probably do that better. But, yeah.
But
they were so good. There was no I was just in the studio, just in awe of how these young kids, because I'd produced a couple records before of bands on Metal Blade that were good, and they were my friends, and they're really cool. But then I get in with these guys, and it's like, whoa, this is a whole other level of playing and songs and all that stuff. It's pretty impressive.
Has there ever been anything that you go back and listen to that you still want to touch up?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's always in flux till it's done. And in your mind, it's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
It's that way with every musician. And I think
comedian too.
Yeah. I think I've seen this before. Once you, in your mind, create the perfect album,
Yeah.
you're done. You're over. Because then you cease wanting to better what you've done before. And so that's why I love it when bands go, like, I'll go, oh man, that record's so great. I love it. It's like, it's okay. This is wrong and that's wrong. And we could do better down the road. Because you want to have people be motivated to every time you do something, try to make it better. And it's especially hard for really big bands because, you've had all the success and all these, gold records and all this stuff. And what's the motivation at that point? Like, what's his motivation or James Hetfield's motivation to write a new record? Because they don't need to do it necessarily, but it's the creative juices that flow. But then you've got to find ways to be motivated to write heavy music. And, when you're living a nice lifestyle, it's a lot harder to do that.
That's actually a great point.
No, I still hate a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's deep within.
Good.
Deep within.
I really screwed myself around 2001, kind of embellishing on your story when I did Disciple and wrote the album God Hates Us All.
Mhm.
After I did that, I'm like, now what do I say?
Really?
I reached the summit in my head.
Really?
I'm like, what do you say after you say God hates us all?